welcome or welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I don't know. What I do know is I've got a remarkably pretty pinky purple look going on today, and it was achieved with this pretty little palette from Beauty Glazed. It's the Jupiter palette, and yes, we all know which palette it is duping. However, if you want to see just exactly which colours I used and how well they performed, my friend, you are in just the right place. Here comes your tutorial. Hey, welcome back from the intro. I will have shown you this, or at least I will show you the outside of it in the intro. This is, now you know I bought the Cmaa D version of the Huda Gemstones palette, the green one, which I have got a video up on. If I remember, I will link it. I love the holographic packaging on this. I will link it in the description below. I've binned the box for this because it was literally just cardboard box. This is by Beauty Glazed. I've got a couple of palettes from Beauty Glazed already, so I know they're pretty good quality. Beauty Glazed are kind of Colourpop, Morphe, Makeup Rev sort of quality. And I wanted to see, because I wanted the blue one, the green one and the purple one, because I managed to pick these up. I think I got one I got from Wish, one I got from AliExpress. I can't remember which way around it was, but I know they were both about £2-3 each with postage. So I got one of each brand to see which one was best. And the blue one that I will order before I start my low buy in 2019, that's going to be hard, will be whichever one I think is the better quality. So, face is washed, moisturised, SPF'd and primed. If I can blooming well find it, hang on. Don't you love it when you put something back and it falls over and you then can't get it? Primed with my facial antiperspirant because I have been struggling a lot lately with my pain levels. On my eyes I've got Revolution Conceal and Define, which I've set with Coty Airspun, same as I always do. I've got my colour switch for tapping off into, and just to prove the point, I've got a washcloth here that I've also been using to clean brushes with. So you don't have to have a colour switch, you can just use a towel of some kind. This is actually quite a pretty washcloth that my mother-in-law got me last year for Christmas, but I don't use washcloths on my face. My skin, I don't like using soap on my face, so I only ever tend to use cotton rounds, or, you know, so. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. In Jupiter, as you can see, very, very pretty indeed. I have done swatches, I'll put them up here while I zoom in. Warning, when the swatches come back down, I'm going to be very close up. Don't want it to shock you. So as you can see, none of these had got names, so I've just done sort of 5 colours across the top and 4 across the bottom. Hello! Told you I was back. Right, now, this is the bit that regular viewers will be able to say with me, but newbies, hi, hello, welcome, probably won't have heard this yet. So, when I look straight ahead, you can see all of my mobile eyelid from the inner corner to the outer corner. But I do have very deep set eyes. For example, if I put this here and then close the eye, you can see I've got the same amount of lid space again that disappears back into the crease. So I do have some issues that people with hooded eyes have in terms of transferring up onto the upper lid, etc. But If you don't see all of your mobile eyelid, you can still follow my tutorials. Sorry, my kitchen is south facing and the sun keeps coming in and out behind a cloud, so my white balance may fluctuate. Don't know how well the camera's going to keep up. If you get a flat top brush, something like this, with your eye open, just sketch out where you need your crease to fall. So you're basically creating your own lid space. Obviously, this is going to reduce the amount of space you have available between your crease colour and your brow. Now, I normally use two brushes. I start off with a big fluffy brush like this, and then I move down to a more tapered fluffy brush like this. If you have a smaller space here, because with deep set eyes I've got a lot of eyelid to play with, but if you've got quite low brows or you've had to move your own crease up, instead of starting with a brush this big, start with a brush this big, and when I move down to this one, you need to move down to something like this. Now I know it looks like a pencil brush, but it's not. It's still very loosely packed, as you can see, whereas pencil brushes tend to be more densely packed. But it comes up to a point. This is a tapered crease brush. This one's from Coastal Scents. Just gives you a little bit more leeway with how far the colour blends out. So, just going to give this brush a bit of a wipe on my flannel or face cloth or washcloth, or whatever you call it. I might do that with all of them actually, so that when I start I can properly get on with what I'm doing. A lot of these brushes are actually stained. I do wipe them off each time I use them, and sort of every other day give them a spritz with a alcohol spray, and then deep clean, usually once every 10 to 14 days depending on how often I've actually used them, because I've got a lot of brushes. Right, shall we start putting some colour on? Now, my channel is aimed at all levels, from people who've never picked up a brush before to people who can do eye looks far better than I can. So I am going to take you through step by step. Because of my pain, I can't blend very quickly, so it's going to be a reasonable pace so that beginners can keep up with me. If, however, you are more experienced and you can blend quicker than me, there's either 3 dots here or a widget thingy there, depending on whether you're on your laptop or your phone. And you can actually speed up the playback. I will not be offended if you do that. I probably will sound like a chipmunk, but never mind. How's your day been so far? Has it been a good one? I hope it has. Or if you're at the start of your day, I hope it's going to be a good one. Right, I'm going to start off. Purples, blues, greens and yellows are the hardest colours to create. So in this one, I'm definitely going in with this. This has got some blue base to it, because obviously blue and red make purple. So I definitely want to use this shade. I think I'm going to start off with this light pink here. And I'm just going to... Oh, okay, this kicks up a lot of powder. Now, don't blow that away, because what we can do, when we go back into it in a minute, we can pick that powder up so it won't be wasted. And at least when it kicks up powder, you know you're getting pigment on your brush. So, to start off with, we're going to start at the outside corner and we're going to do windscreen wipers through our crease. Now I can follow my socket of my eye. If you've had to move your crease line up, you follow that line. Okay? So we're just going to very gently, I'm holding the brush right at the very end so I put as little pressure on my eye as possible. And we're just going to really gently just run that backwards and forwards like a windscreen wiper. Just to get our first bit of colour laid down and to make sure that we've got the placement just where we want it, which is absolutely fine. So now I'm going to go back in and pick up the kick up. Very Dr. Seuss, isn't it? Pick up the kick up. Tap off again. Now this time, because I've lost a lot of weight over the years, I've lost about 10-11 stone, or 140, 150 pounds for those of you in America. I haven't got a clue what it is in kilos, sorry, I'm old. Because of that, the skin on my eyelid is not as taut as it used to be. Also, the fact that I'm 44 years old, the skin on my eyelid is not as taut as it used to be. And this side's got permanent deep creasing here from where it was pulled around when I was 5 years old at the opticians because of being blind in this eye. So, we need to make sure that when we put colour on, that when the skin folds over, because if you look, you can probably see there's probably patching on that one, where I've just gone backwards and forwards. But we're not going to worry about that because what we're going to do now will cover that. So we're going to start off with little tiny circular movements with the bottom bristles of the brush, keeping in contact with that first line we laid down. Then when we get to here, without taking the brush off our skin, we're going to go up slightly, reverse the direction, and come back out again. And what this does, if I slow right down, you can see it actually moves the skin, but it moves it very gently. It doesn't stretch it anymore, but it allows you to get all of the lid covered. Now, because I've got deep set eyes, I can actually go up again, go back to the original direction, and come back across. And as you can see, this actually has got a fair amount of pigment to it. Now, I like to leave about a brush width or 4 or 5 mils below the lowest part of my brow, so that when I put my underbrow highlight on, it shows up nicely, and also it's gives a more youthful effect, taking the colour right up to your brows. It's very 1980s, girls and boys, of course. We want to avoid that look unless we're going to an 80s party. Now, once we're happy with the colour, now I do struggle with here and here on both eyes to get pigment to stay put and to actually lay down. So I'm just going to add a little bit more pigment just to this upper corner here and give it a bit of a blend. That's literally because I've got some creasing there. So I'm not too worried about this bit here for the minute because we're going to be putting darker colours on. But this top corner I do want to make sure is nicely blended. So I'm just adding a bit more pigment, giving that a bit of a blend all to itself. So once we're happy with the density of pigment that we've got on the eye, which I am, we're now going to do windscreen wipers again, but we're going to do them in up and down this time. And we're going to have shorter windscreen wipers and they're going to overlap. I'll show you what I mean. So we start at the top here, little tiny, backwards and forwards, all the way down, all the way up, move across a bit, all the way down, all the way up, move across a bit. And we do this sort of 3 or 4 times depending on how wide your eyes are and how wide your little windscreen wipers are. And then a combination just to finish off with a mixture of windscreen wipers and twirly whirlies, just to make sure we've got that totally blended out. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to do the same thing on the other eye, and I'm not going to do it off camera because that used to bug me when I was learning. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. Start off with windscreen wipers, backwards and forwards, through the crease, or wherever your crease needs to be. Now, if I very gently straighten my skin out here, you can see what I mean about sort of the tiger striping or the gapping. Now, normally, doing the circular movements that we're about to start doing, we'll deal with that. But because my wrinkles there are particularly deep set, I do sometimes find that I have to actually gently stretch the skin out in order to get rid of those tiger stripes or barcode striping, whatever you want to call it. As I said, with the first colour I'm not overly worried because I'm going to be putting darker colours over the top anyway. But if you look, there is still some striping there that the circular movement didn't deal with. Now, don't pull your eye out like this. unless you absolutely have to. If the twirly whirlies will sort it for you, do the twirly whirlies, otherwise you will end up with creases, and I can assure you they will only get worse over time. So again, we're just going to do a little mini windscreen wipers up and down. Obviously I'm shutting this side because I'm blinding it, so it gives you a bit of an easier look at it, but obviously you do get to see the two different types of application, one with an open eye and one with it shut, because to be quite frank, if I shut this side there's not going to be an awful lot of makeup happening. So as you can see, I popped a little bit of extra pigment just up on this corner where I struggle with creasing, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to get my washcloth, and I'm just going to rub this brush on the washcloth just to get rid of any excess pigment on it. As you can see, there's the pink. Because I'm going to use this brush for the next colour. So if you've started with the smaller brush, continue to use that one. Now, I am going to go in to this magenta in the corner here. Again, an awful lot of kick up, but again, that really doesn't worry me. When you tap off, this one doesn't hold as much pigment on the brush, as you can see. So let's see how well. We're going to start off doing the same thing with our little windscreen wiper. Let's see how well that actually adds pigment. I've not done my base yet, so yeah, this one's taking a little bit more effort to get the pigment to lay down, but it is going down. It's just taking a bit of extra patience, that's all. I'm not going to tap off quite so hard. I'm going to try and leave more pigment on the actual brush. Now this time when we do the circular movements, we're still going to keep the bristles in contact with that line. But when we get to the middle, we're not going to lift it up this time. We're still going to reverse the direction and come back, but we're going to keep in contact with that crease line that we've laid down. I'll show you what I mean. So again, little circular movements across to the nose. Reverse the direction but don't lift up. And just come back again. And I'm going to do this a couple of times just to build this pigment up. It looks like I'm going to have to pick up a little bit more pigment on my brush to get that to stand out. You always get an honest review with me, regardless. I mean, I have got some discount codes listed in my description box for various different companies, but even so, you still get an honest review from me on all of those companies, because I would hate for you to go out and spend your money on something which wasn't really good enough, but you'd bought it because I said it was. So, please or offend, you always get the honest truth from me. Now you can see I've got some fallout here because obviously I had to leave more pigment on the brush. Now normally I'd say don't worry about it because we haven't done our base yet, but pinks and reds and purples can stain, so I do like to dust those away quite quickly. Right, you can see it's not made a massive difference, but you can see there is a difference between the two eyes. So, and let's do the same thing this side. So we start off with our windscreen wiper. Yeah, see, I didn't actually tap off this time. I think with this shade you just need to be very, very careful with how much you're using, because when you tap off you're losing the pigment completely. Whereas when you don't tap off, you can see you do actually keep, it's much quicker. You know, I've got exactly the same level of pigment now. In fact, if anything, I've got more on this side. And I've only dipped in the once for the twirly whirlies, where I dipped in I think twice for the other side. Obviously I've got more fallout because we didn't tap the brush off as much. But again, I've not done my base yet, so I'm not worried. If you are the sort of person that does your foundation first, just put a layer of loose powder to catch any fallout. I'm just gonna deepen this side up a little bit just so that it matches. This is the benefit of makeup. There's no mistakes, just happy little accidents. You know, and if you don't like what you've done, well, you can take it off and you can start again. You know, makeup comes off at the end of the day. It's not a tattoo. It's not permanent. Okay. Right. Just gonna clean the magenta. Well, considering I didn't want to lay it on my eyes very well, it's certainly coming off quite well on this blooming flannel. And you can, of course, use your flannel to dust your fallout away if you haven't got a loose brush. Alright, as you can see, just get as much of this off of this as I can. As you can see, it has stained it a little bit, but you know, that's what happens when you use colours rather than just neutrals. Right, I am now going to go down to the more tapered brush. If you started with this, put that back in. If you started with this, now's the time for you to go down to your tapered crease brush. Now the sun's gone back behind a cloud again. Fabulous. Right, I'm going to go into this deepest one here, this sort of burgundy. Let's see whether this one will actually pack any pigment on. So, I'm just going to actually, on the outside third of the eye, just really gently tap. Oh yeah, that pigment's going on okay. Just tap that pigment on the outer third. Give it a very, very gentle, and I mean very, very gentle, buff or blend. You can either do windscreens or you can do twirly whirlies, whichever you find most comfortable, or you can do a mixture of both like I do. Pick up some more, and again I'm just going to run this through the crease, same way as we did with the previous two colours. Now, this is where things are done just a wee bit differently. Now, before I picked up more pigment on my brush, I'm not doing that this time. And last time when we blended, we kept the bottom of the bristles in contact with the line. This time we're keeping it all on that line to blend, because I still want to see the magenta, I still want to see the pale pink, but I just want to soften the edges of this burgundy. I'll show you what I mean. So again, the tiniest little circles you can, you're barely moving the brush on your eyelid. Just tiny, tiny little light, gentle circular movements. You'll be able to see easier with the other eye, because obviously I can close that to show you. But you're literally just softening the edges of that deeper colour that we've put down. And this will help make the eye look slightly more deeper set, which gives it a little bit more of a dramatic or 1950s film star kind of look, which I think is flattering on all eye shapes and types. You see what I mean? It really makes that bit there just really recede back, which for me, of course, it does. It goes right back in the crease, but yeah. So I suppose really I ought to dust that away, shouldn't I? There we go. I always keep a loose brush just for. It looks like I might actually have to clean that up with a little bit of concealer. That's not a problem. So again, we're just going to tap that pigment on the outer third of the eye to start with. Obviously, if we were going to do a spotlight, I would also do the inner third, but I don't really feel like doing a spotlight eye today. I know this is my very classic style of eye that I do, but I do find that it's the most flattering for the most different eye shapes, and also if you are a beginner, it's really striking without being that difficult. Right, if I gently pull that out now, can you see what I mean about this tiger striping here? I've just wiped on the inside of my nose. Fabulous, well done, Ange. So I'm just going to do some little tiny, teeny tiny little blendings here, because this is what gives your age away, folks. If you've got any creasing like that on your eyelid, that gives your age away, because then people are like, oh, creases on the eyelids, huh? You're not as young as you claim to be, are you? But as I said, sometimes it can be genetics. I know some girls in the 20s have got loose eyelids. They don't have the really firm, tall eyelids. Some through genetics, some through weight loss. So it can affect all of us. I like. I'm just going to clean this brush off now. Now, I'm going to do the rest of the mobile lid, and then I'll go off and put foundation and stuff on and come back to finish the look off. So I'm going to go in with a flat packer brush like this. This is a So Eco brush, but I've had it so long and washed it so many times, the name's come off the handle. So I would tell you what it is, but I don't know. Oh, try not to wipe your brush up your nose if you can, folks. Unless, as I said, you're going to an 80s party, in which case, rock on. Now, most shimmers apply best wet. I'm going to go in with this purple because, one, purple is my favourite colour, two, purples are difficult to create. Never go into a packed pigment with a wet brush. You will see people do that and it absolutely freaks me out. I hate when they do that, because if you go into a pressed pigment, not loose pigments, but if you go into a pressed pigment like this with a wet brush, you can cause it to get hard pan, which means it seals over, goes really, really shiny on the top, almost glassy, and then you can't pick any pigment up next time you go to use it. So, what I do is I pack the pigment onto a dry brush, okay, like that. And then this is Obsession Pigment Boost. You can use anything. You can use a moisturising spray like Fix Plus or Mario Badescu. You can use a priming spray, you can use a setting spray, you can even use fresh clean water. All we're doing is wetting this pigment. This is not foiling the shade, this is applying the pigment wet. Foiling the shade would be putting it into... where's my little dish? There it is. To foil a pigment, you'd put it loose into one of these and mix it with a mixing medium of some form to create either a liquid or a paste to apply. This is just applying it wet. So, wet the brush. I always tend to wipe the ferrule off to make sure there's no moisture going down to loosen the glue on those brushes. Brushes? Bristles. It's bad pain day, folks. And then I'm going to apply that, starting with the centre of the eye for the majority of the pigment. Nice. And then continuing into the centre of the eye. And we're just going to pack that pigment. Oh, sorry, I'm going off camera. Just going to pack that pigment onto the 2/3 of the lid. We haven't put anything on yet. Now, you can cut the lid, you can put concealer on, etc. I prefer not to when I'm testing a palette because I want to see how much opacity is in this pigment. I want to see whether it can actually cover the deeper colour that we put down through that crease. I want to see whether it's got enough pigment to cover it itself without needing the crease cutting, which it appears it can. Now, I would either clean this off on the colour switch, or as I'm doing today to show you, I'm just going to clean it off on this flannel. Now, if I'd done this on the colour switch, obviously the flannel is going to dry it for me as well, but if I'd done it on the colour switch, I would then do this to dry it off on my hand before going back into the pigment for the other eye. So again, go into that pigment with the flat brush, pack the pigment on, wet the brush, dry the ferrule, and add the pigment. Now I do need to gently stretch this eye out, otherwise shimmers like this get stuck in the deep creases that I have and then start crumbling off through the day, which looks awful. So I do have to just do that to make sure that it's gone on okay. I'm actually quite pleased with how well this is performing, but then as I said, I do like Beauty Glazed products. Apparently Huda does as well, because they did dupes of Huda's Rose Gold and the Desert Dusk palette. And then when Huda did her latest palette, her nude palette, I thought that looks really familiar. And sure enough, when I went onto Beauty Glazed site and had a look, they've been selling that palette for about a year before Huda had bought the pigment out herself. So it seems that Beauty Glazed copied a couple of Huda's palettes, and Huda returned the favour, copying one of Beauty Glazed palettes. Now, long-term viewers know that Huda's actually on my shit list and I won't buy from her. I'm going to do a video explaining why, I just haven't got round to it yet. Right, I'm going to go off camera now, put some foundation on, and I'll be back instantly for you, so please don't go anywhere. I'm back. Told you it'd be instant for you, didn't I? You'll see the full look in a minute. I'm going to go in with this flat top brush, and I'm going to pick up this corally pink down here. In my viewfinder it does look like a hot pink, but it is actually a corally pink in IRL, you know, in real life. I'm just going to smudge that very gently underneath the bottom lash line. Obviously, both eyes. I always flinch with this eye because obviously I don't have any peripheral vision, so I'm kind of relying on mirror and muscle memory to not poke myself in the eyeball. It's not always successful. Obviously I haven't done bottom mascara yet. And I have now got another another little brush. Come on, little brushy, where are you? There you are. It's shorter than the rest, so I have to hunt for it. Again, it's flat top, but it's a bit wider, and it's great for sort of smudging colours out with. So I'm going to go in. I want to use a colour I haven't used yet, but the rest of them are all shimmers, so I'm going to go in with this shimmer at the top here, and just be very careful how I smudge this out, because obviously my base is now done. So I'm just going to very, very gently just buff that shimmer along that lower lash line, just to soften the line up a little bit. You can see it just makes it a little bit softer looking, that's all. Nice. And I'm going to finish off with a little bit of mascara on those bottom lashes. Might just stick a little bit more on the top lashes just for the fun of it. There we go, that looks better. Had more on one lot of lashes than the other. Right, let's zoom you back out again. Ta-da! Hair is, as usual, uncontrollable. So, this is the final look. What do I think? I think I've just smacked myself in the jaw, that was fun. What do I think of this Beauty Glazed eyeshadow palette? That's the words I'm groping my brain for. Well, so far I've used, what, 6 of those. So I've used 6 of them. Have I used 6 or 9 shades? What did I use? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, yeah, I used 6 of those shades. As I said, this magenta shade at the bottom here did need quite a bit of work to build up. But all the other shades that I've used were actually really quite good, including this deeper burgundy this side. You know, for a £2-3 palette, you really can't go wrong. It's certainly got pigmentation. Hopefully it won't fade much during the day. Other Beauty Glazed palettes that I've got don't, so there's no reason why this one should. But yeah, I really like that look. I think it's a really pretty in pink, which I'm not going to start singing at you. I know I do that a lot. I know. Right, I hope you have found this tutorial helpful. If you did, it would be absolutely awesome if you could hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, don't forget to ring my bell, and choose all notifications so that you get told every time I upload another one of these videos. You know I'd end up singing at you eventually, right? Talking of another one of these videos, why don't you go and have a quick shifty at the green Cmaa D version. I'll try and remember to link it in the description box below. And once you finish watching all of mine, as always, my beautiful ladies from the Beauty YouTuber Growth Group are all listed in my description box, and it would be awesome if you could pop over and check out some of their most recent offerings. Right, as ever, all that remains for me to say is you'll stay fabulous, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.